4, please, on the pod from Central City, Kentucky, Carlee Shoemaker. And this one is a little different than what we've done. I'm excited about it. Carlee Shoemaker she's a former college golfer, but she also is a content creator and she's a contributor to NBC Golf and Golf Channel. So we talk about that transition that she has made from someone who played golf growing up, who competed at the Division I level of college golf, and has seamlessly made this transition over to the content creation side of the world. With NIL and everything going on, she had a really interesting college golf career, really interesting opportunities that came her way. And now she continues to grow her profile as she is certainly a fixture of the golf media landscape. If you don't know her, you are about to know her. So we talk about that story and some of what she sees in the golf world. She was just at the Chevron with Golf Channel, working on their social media side, working on their, not necessarily what was on TV, but all of the behind the scenes content that was shared on social media. So I'm fascinated by her story, excited to tell it here on Eyes on Golf. Coming up, it's Carlee Shoemaker. She is a former college golfer at the University of the Cumberlands in Eastern Kentucky, and now an influencer, content creator, contributor, maybe we'll say journalist. We're going to have to talk about that for Golf Channel and NBC Golf. Carlee Shoemaker is here. Carlee, thank you for being with me. And that's the first question that I have for you is when people, maybe it's family, friends, they say, Carlee, you're out of college now, you're out of grad school. What do you do? What do you tell them?
Hi, thanks for having me, first of all. I don't like to call myself an influencer. I just say I work in golf and I make videos. So
that is a concise way of putting it.
Yep.
And I want to get into that story because I was bringing up to you before, I'm fascinated by especially you coming out of college as the NIL era started to develop and being able to find a way to create content and to build an audience. But I want to get back to your roots. You're from Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
You spent a lot of your life in Kentucky. How did you get into golf? How did you get on this path to play college golf?
Yeah, so I'm from Kentucky, lived in Kentucky my whole life until about 7 months ago. I went to college in Kentucky. So growing up, golf wasn't a huge sport where I'm from. I'm from a really small town in Kentucky. And I played a bunch of different sports growing up. But when I was in, I want to say first grade, we moved to a new house and it was on a golf course. So it just made sense to play golf. So I just started playing golf around first grade, kind of just stuck with it. My sister joined the golf team when she was in middle school. So I also joined it because I had to be like my big sister and just kind of stuck with it, ended up really enjoying it. And in high school is when I started taking it serious and realized that I wanted to play in college. And then I just played in college. So it wasn't the traditional way. I wasn't really trained professionally as a kid. Didn't really start getting lessons until I was in high school. And it just happened. Like if you would have asked me when I was a kid if I was going to be working golf, they'd be like, what's golf? You were a cheerleader. So
So, I mean, that's an amazing start to the story. You went to the University of the Cumberlands, which
yes.
I'll be honest, I was not that familiar with before doing some research for this. But we love NAIA golf on Eyes on Golf. We've had Justin Lauer on, who I always say was the 2010 NAIA champion at Malone University. But you made the transition from NAIA to Division I at Eastern Kentucky, kind of as this whole college world changes. Right around COVID, you get an extra year of eligibility so you can make that transition. What was that change like going from NAIA to Division I?
Yeah, so I started out at an NAIA school because, coming out of high school, I wasn't a great player. I didn't have a lot of knowledge about the sport yet because, like I said, I didn't really take it serious until I started getting into high school, and golf wasn't very big where I'm from, so didn't really have a lot of examples to look up to. So I started NAIA and I gained so much experience there, had an amazing coach, kind of took me under his wing and trained me into the player that I am now. And then we got that extra year of eligibility and I had the option to stay at University of the Cumberlands or transfer somewhere else. And I was like, I have the skill now, I have the experience, I have tournament wins. I might as well try to go D1. I'm never going to have this opportunity again. So I did
Mm-hmm.
transfer. It made me really nervous because at that time I was kind of going through a little bit of like imposter syndrome because from where I came from, I was like, how did I get this good this fast? It had to be luck. So I struggled a lot mentally, like making the transition. I was like, am I good enough to be D1? Even though I had scores and I had tournament wins to prove that, it was more of like, am I actually good enough to play D1? So the transition was tough for me, but I wouldn't trade it for anything else, and I loved it.
And as we kind of preview the next segment of
Yep.
things, that you are so open about your golf history and how golf, both mentally and I think physically the game, like you talked about, actually playing the game tips, but also the mental side of the game is so important. And as you were playing, I don't know if you had pro aspirations as you were making that move to Eastern Kentucky, but you start developing content somewhere along the line. When did you kind of look at what you were doing and think, hey, I can give a great glimpse into what started with college golf? When did you have that conversation with yourself?
Like, when did I start making content, pretty
What
much?
what made what made you want to start making content when you were in college around what you were doing with golf?
Yeah, so I started during COVID. When we were in quarantine, the golf course was the only thing that was open, and we weren't able to play in tournaments or anything. We got sent home from college, actually. So I just would go out on the golf course, and it's when TikTok started, you know, kind of growing. So I started making just silly videos, like following the trends, and they did pretty good. I started gaining a following, but I didn't really think anything of it. And then we got back to college, and I just kept making videos, and I was like, okay, I'm maybe people would find it interesting to see like what a day in the life of a college athlete is. So I just started showing like at tournaments or while I'm practicing and just kind of days in my life. But we couldn't make money because of the NIL stuff. So again, I wasn't thinking anything of it, like not trying to make it a career or anything. I honestly just thought it was cool. I was like, I'm in college, I have some followers. Like this is fun. I enjoyed making videos. And then I made the transfer to Eastern Kentucky with that extra year of eligibility, and that was the year that the NIL rules changed. So we were able to make money, but it was so new that Eastern Kentucky, they kind of didn't know what NIL was and how to navigate it. I really didn't know either. So didn't get to do a lot then because we really didn't know how to do it. But I continued just making videos about being a college athlete, just relatable golf content, still following trends. And yeah, I just enjoyed making videos, and I was like, okay, I'm a golfer, I'm gonna show that.
Was there a time that you thought, wow, this could be what I do after I'm done with school or anything like that?
Yeah, it was towards the end of my last year because that's when I started getting burnt out, and I had aspirations to be a professional golfer when I transferred, and that was one of the main reasons I did transfer. Um, and then at the end, I started getting burnt out. I was like, okay, I kind of hate golf. I can't see myself being a professional for the rest of my life. Like, that sounds miserable to me. And I was like, what else am I going to do? And at that time, I was doing a master's in business. But I was like, I really don't want to work an office job either. So I was like, okay, you know what? Social media is going pretty good. How about we try this? So I learned a lot about it. I learned how to make money from it. I learned how to be better at it, and kind of started paying attention to what content does better and kind of diving a little bit deeper into it. And it just kind of happened.
Well, that's where the business degree comes in, right? That you can
Yep.
use that to help you
Yep.
make money. And I think that's where a lot of college athletes, and with all due respect to Eastern Kentucky, what are Eastern Kentucky? What's the mascot?
The
The
kernels.
Colonels, the Eastern Kentucky Colonels. With all due respect
Yep.
to the Eastern Kentucky Colonels, not necessarily an SEC school or a golf
Right.
powerhouse per se, but you're seeing a lot of, in the NIL world, a lot of student athletes who are at, could be at any university. If they are able to create content like you yourself did, compelling content, it definitely engages people.
Right.
What is your advice to student athletes right now who might be considering creating content around what they're doing?
Just do it. Create content that you enjoy making. People love. I would say most people love seeing the lives of college athletes if they're into sports. So just showing your everyday life, like what your facilities are, like what your daily routine is, like seeing the sport life balance, just anything like that. I feel like people find that super interesting. And just starting out like that, you never know where it's going to take you.
Did you have a video or certain forms of content that you noticed right away that they were resonating with people?
Yeah, the first video that actually went semi-viral, I don't even remember how many views I got, was just showing the day in the life of traveling for a golf tournament. So I showed just like getting ready, getting on the bus, like showing my teammates, and then playing in a practice round and just like how all that works. And people seem to love that. So that's kind of where I started making more of that kind, because I figured out that people just love seeing like the behind the scenes of being a student athlete.
So if someone asks you, how do you make the transition from student athlete, from college athlete to content creator, what would you say?
For me, it just kind of happened for me, but making that transition, it's more of just continuing with the passion that I had. So I had a passion for golf, and if it was a basketball player, they have a passion for basketball. And no, you might not be playing in college anymore, but you can continue that passion. And whether it's teaching others or inspiring others, you can keep that with content creating. That's what I love about it. It's like I'm done playing college golf. I don't want to be done playing competitive golf. I do want to play in tournaments again, but I'm done with college golf. But I can keep that passion going by helping others and creating content and doing something that I love.
A friend of mine, Michael Loray, who writes some great work, does some great work for Forbes, but does some work for My Golf Spy, wrote an article about you this past December where the
Mm-hmm.
title of it was Carlee Shoemaker falling in love with golf again, and having to do
Yeah.
with your form of content creation helping you reconnect with the game in a different sort of way. What do you think he meant by that, and how much did seeing that article resonate with what you were doing?
Yeah, so I loved that article. I loved doing that interview with him, and basically, like I said before, um, I had the aspirations of being a professional golfer. And then my last year of college, I got burnout, ended up hating golf. Um, and then I had kind of like a gap year where I was finishing my master's. So I had an entire year where I was doing my master's but not playing golf. So I was still in school but not playing golf. And I hated golf at that time. So I just went through the worst time. I was like, I planned my entire life around golf, but I hate it right now. And what am I going to do? And then that's when I kind of moved to Florida. Is like when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. My fiance got a job here in Florida. I was like, okay, I'm going to go with you. It's a golf state. I was like, I miss golf. I don't want to hate golf. So we're going to fall back in love with it. So just being able to make those videos, I did a series of like falling in love with golf again, and just how I was doing it, how I was like taking the pressure off myself and just trying to fall back in love with the sport that I once loved and it meant so much to me. And being able to see other people like get help from that and feel seen by that, and helped me also not feel so alone in it. Like a lot of people go through the same thing. So it was just really awesome to be able to share that and see other people take it very well.
So at some point, NBC Sports Golf Channel comes to you and asks for you to be a part of their coverage. Did that come out of nowhere? How did that all develop?
It honestly, it did come out of nowhere. I first did a collab post with them for, it was the Chevron Championship, but it was when it was still at Mission Hills. It was the very last year it was there. And I just did like a collab post with them about like taking the last leap into Poppy's Pond. And I was like, this is so cool. I get to work with Golf Channel. Never would have like imagined doing any type of like coverage for them. I was just so honored just to have a collab post with them. And then a few months later, they reached out and they're like, hey, we are sending a creator to the NCAAs. We would love for you to do our social coverage. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so I did it. I loved it. And I was like, I really hope I can do this again. Like it's nothing, it was something I never imagined myself doing, like any type of reporting. So when I went there and I actually did it and figured out that I loved it, I was like, wow, I want to do this again. Then they asked me to do the Solheim Cup. And at that point, I was was like, you can end my career right here and I'd be happy. I was like, this is incredible. Going to Spain for the Solheim Cup with Golf Channel, an absolute dream. And then I just most recently did it with the Chevron Championship in Texas. And I just absolutely loved it. Never imagined myself doing any type of reporting, but I really, really enjoy it. It's crazy to me.
And just so people understand, when you're doing this reporting so far, you're not necessarily on the TV broadcast.
Right.
You're not necessarily, doing what people might imagine as sort of the traditional broadcasting, but you are following along with the action and telling a different side of the story that
Yeah.
people might not get to see. But in the social media era, you're able to let people into something different. How do you
Right.
feel you're adding something perhaps to these not, excuse me, you're adding something to the coverage of the event that the broadcasts don't necessarily have the time to cover?
Yeah. So I will do some like scoring reports, and you can see that stuff online. But like what I do, what I enjoy doing is showing more of like the behind the scenes and the fans and like interacting with the fans, or showing like fan activations, and following the girls on the course and explaining the holes and like what they're seeing, like maybe getting on the tee box and showing like what they see from the tee box point of view, and like showing that kind of stuff that you don't always see on TV broadcasts. So just being able to show that and have the creative freedom just to kind of just let people have another perspective of a golf tournament.
Well, what do you think? What do people want to see on social media from coverage during a big golf tournament?
Talking like TV broadcasting.
Not necessarily on TV. What do people want to see that they can't see on TV, that you go out there and you think, okay, here's what I can cover that people just would love to see, that no one would see maybe 10 years ago, before TikTok, Instagram, even Twitter, was around. People wouldn't see this sort of additive shoulder content.
Right.
When you wake up in the morning and you go to Chevron Solheim Cup, what are you aiming to
Yes.
think about? What are you thinking about that's different?
I I love getting on the course and being able to show the perspective of a hole from another player's point of view, like showing like what I would do. Like I consider myself an average player, so like showing what an average player sees versus how a professional player sees it, and then also just showing like the fan interaction. You see the fans on TV, but you don't always like see the how big some of these events are. Like for example, at the Solheim Cup, people go all out at the Solheim Cup.
Mhm.
Like Team Europe, Team USA, like the fans, they will dress up in costumes, even at the Ryder Cup. Um, and a lot of people don't see that from like TV broadcasts. It's like an entertaining part of a tournament, and I feel like it's engaging. I made a video about the different outfits that I saw at the Solheim Cup, and it did really well. And I think just showing aspects of a tournament, like fans, different perspectives of holes, are something that people really enjoy seeing.
When the players are out there, like you were just at Chevron, when the players see you out there, obviously, you had aspirations to be a pro. What's your interaction like with them?
Yeah, so I love just going out there and watching them. If I'm lucky, I get to talk to them, but with not being like a professional TV reporter, it's sometimes really hard to like get up to them and like interview them personally. At the NCAA's, it was a little bit easier because they're not professionals yet, and I could easily get out there. I wasn't like stuck behind the ropes or anything. But yeah, I love talking to them and being able to just kind of pick their brain a little bit. I don't like asking them like the usual like questions that a TV broadcaster would do. Like they have that
Mhm.
covered. I like asking them more for example, at the Chevron Championship, I wanted so bad just to talk to Nelly Corda and just be like, "What are you doing? Do you have like a superstition? Like are you carrying a special tee or a special bar marker? Like what are you doing?" And then at the NCAA's, I would just ask them like, "What's your favorite thing to do after a round?"
Mhm.
And like just seeing like you get a little bit more of their personalities, and I just love interacting with them that way.
Did you get to speak to Nelly?
No, I didn't. I had one opportunity. I had one opportunity. I was at the driving range. It was after round 2, I want to say, And she was up on the driving range after she played, and I was like, and I had my mom with me. My mom was like filming the whole thing. And I was like, let's go talk to Nellie. Like, this is my chance to talk to Nellie. And I was on my way up there, and she hopped in a golf cart and drove away. I was like, that was probably my only chance, and I lost it. So, no, I didn't get to talk to her.
Well, there's still potentially
Yeah.
there's time because I'm sure you're going to be at future events. Did you at least are you starting to get recognized maybe at some of these events, whether it be college or Chevron? People see your content.
Yeah. Especially at the Chevron, I had a lot of people come up to me, and I had a few people ask me for pictures, and they're like, "Oh, I love your content. I love your videos." And I was like, "Wow, people are actually watching this stuff." So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, I know one segment that it always pops up for me is spilling the tea. You just
Mhm.
mentioned a tea marker a second ago. What is spilling the tea and where did it come from?
Yeah, so I started that, I think, probably last month, so it's very new. I just wanted something to kind of connect a little bit more personal, like a more personal way to connect with my community. So I was like, what better way than just to sit down and just talk to them? Like, not making this big, intricate, oh my gosh, I can't talk, intricate like video. I'm going to just sit down and talk to them, kind of podcast vibes, but not really a podcast, and just tell them stories and stuff that they want to hear. So, I told a story about my best round of college golf, my worst round, my first hole in one, and then just talking about current events. Like my last one is about Nelly Corda. So, I just want to be able to connect and let them kind of get a glimpse into my personality and just talk to them, just have a chat.
It's much more efficient than a podcast, I'd say.
It is hard. It's hard to keep everything you want to say in a minute and 30 seconds.
That's the good news about having jump cuts now.
Yeah.
But you're right. Keeping it to real length
Yeah.
is REEL is always a challenge. You mentioned moving to Florida now,
Yeah.
which is obviously sort of the Silicon Valley for golf. Uh, what's your day like when as a content creator, as someone who's in this golf industry? What's a regular day, week, month like for you?
Yeah. So I am lucky to be in Florida and be in what I like to consider the golf capital. People will argue that. But yeah, so I do work out three times a week with a golf trainer. So I love making content about that. And then I'll just, do my computer work, reply to emails, see what I have to do for the day. And then I can go out to the range. I'll go and practice and I can make videos there, or I'll go out and play and make videos there. But one thing I will say about Florida, golf is expensive here. Being a college golfer, you get to play golf for free whenever you want. So transitioning from that to having to pay for tee times, that's rough. And golf is expensive here, especially during the winter time. It's prime golf time. So I haven't really been playing as much golf as I would like to because it's almost impossible to get a tee time sometimes. But now, the snowbirds are moving out a little bit. It's a little bit easier. It's getting hotter, so people aren't playing golf as much. So now I'm playing a lot more. I played twice this past weekend. So really, my days are just, being as productive as I can be, making content, batching content, and trying to fit in as much golf as possible.
I think that I know even myself, I make some content on the golf course, not as much as you
Yeah.
do, but I think people always wonder, how are you going out there? Who are you going out with? And also how do you, like you said, continue to feel that love of golf, that making golf fun, making you feel good about going out on the golf course while not just oversaturating your day with filming everything, creating everything, and making it a little bit more a little bit more crowded in terms of your day of golf
Yeah.
than just in going out there and enjoying and having fun.
Yeah. I struggle a lot with like playing and filming. Like if I'm going out and I want to play like a good round of golf, I will separate. So like I'll tell myself, okay, I'm going to go play 18 holes, but this is solely just to play golf and enjoy it. Like I'm not going to film anything. I really have to separate it. And then like during the week I'll set a tee time for like 9 holes, and this is a 9-hole round that I'm going to film content. So I'm not super particular about taking it super serious. Like yes, I'm taking it serious, but I'm focusing on the content that I need to make. Um, and then I'll have rounds where I'm out there just to play and enjoy it and enjoy the people that I'm playing with. And I don't sometimes I'll pull out my camera and like film a few shots, but for me, it's really good for me to have a balance of what I call like work rounds and then enjoyment rounds.
Not to steal your secrets, but what are some tips you have for people who want to go out there and create more content in the golf world?
Yeah, so what I do and what I've found is the most efficient. You you kind of plan what you want to do. So it's like, okay, if I want to make a tip about chipping, I'm going to do it around hole 3 to 4. So I have like a few holes to warm up, and then I'll on hole 3 or 4 I'll set up a tripod, put my mic on and film it, and then go to the next hole. So I really like to have a plan of what I'm going to do when I go out for a round that I'm going to film. If I'm going to film a hole, it's super important to have a good tripod, first of all. Really recommend getting a good tripod. I use the iRange Sports Stick. Just stick it in the ground, your phone magnets on it if you're using a phone. If you're using a camera, I haven't really found a good camera tripod. So if anyone has recommendations, let me know. Um, yeah, so you just got to learn to be fast because I'm always scared people are going to get mad at me that I'm going too slow, but I've learned to be really
Mhm.
fast. You just set it down, film, pick it up, and go. So, but I think planning it out is probably my biggest tip.
Are you specifically trying to plan on maybe it's Tuesday midday or sometime that you feel the golf course is going to be the least crowded?
Yeah, I definitely try to go for evening rounds. I think early morning or evening rounds is when the lighting is the best. All like
Of course.
also, so I usually tend to plan for like sunset rounds. I love those. Those are the most relaxing for me, and it's the best lighting, and the course isn't usually super crowded. So that's the time of the day that I usually go for filming.
A lot of people talk about YouTube golf and its popularity.
Yeah.
I know you do some YouTube. I think you would probably put yourself more in the TikTok, Instagram
Yeah.
realm right now. In terms of that ability that golf has, it feels like maybe more so than other sports to connect with people so much on the amateur side, on the content creator side, that is totally separate from the professional side. Why do you think fans, obviously, a lot of people play golf, but why do you think that there's such a big fandom for watching people play golf people who have never actually seen play from a professional standpoint, don't know personally? Why has this whole avenue developed?
I just think it's more realistic. You can connect with them on a different level. Like on professional tours, you don't get to hear what they're talking about when they're playing. You're just watching them play, and it's like watching perfect golf. YouTube golf, it's not perfect golfers. You get to hear them talk. You get to hear the smack talk between the players on the course. It's just more realistic, I think.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense, and that's, I think, people like you said, people want to see some of the jokesters on the golf course who
Yeah.
might play the game, and you know the clothes they wear, the food they eat, what they drink on the golf course might resonate more with who they are as people.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of that has developed. Now, you being in this field have had the ability to work with a lot of partners. Obviously, we mentioned NBC and Golf Channel, but from a more of a brand partnership level, as your profile grows, how are you being picky perhaps, or how are you determining what the best partners are for you?
Yeah, for me, I definitely just try to pick brands that I personally love and that I would use or I already use. I'm never going to do a brand deal with a product that I don't agree with or that I don't like. I always make sure I like the product first and I'm actually going to use it because I want my community to have like a trust for me and can be able to trust what I say. And like, if I'm trying to influence them to buy something, like I want them to believe that it's actually good. Um, yeah, and I'm still relatively new to this. This is only really my first full year doing this full time. So I'm still trying to navigate all of it, honestly. Um, but I did sign with a manager that has helped a lot. So um, yeah, basically just only sign with products that I like.
Is there anyone in the industry that's been a mentor to you or that's helped you as you've grown, or you're just throwing yourself into this and learning everything on the fly?
Honestly, I threw myself into it, but as you go, I've met a lot of people, whether it's at events or if they come into town and just want to play around, that are also social media creators, and just being able to meet people and you can talk to them about it. Because, like, I don't know personally, like around here, people that do a lot of content creating. So I like to ask questions. So having these people and building relationships with them, you can talk about this kind of stuff and kind of give each other tips and like what's going good, what's going bad. And yeah, so not really have any mentors. It's just kind of meeting a bunch of people that do the same thing as you and learning from them.
Being at the Chevron and Solheim Cup definitely helps
Yeah.
in terms of meeting people, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Uh, when you think about your career, where do you want it to go? Where do you think you can build on what you've already started here?
Yeah. A lot of people ask me that, and I'm really not sure. I know I just love what I do and I want to continue doing it. And with social media, there's so many opportunities that will come your way that you don't expect. Like, for example, the Golf Channel thing. Never would have expected that, but I definitely want to keep growing with that. And hopefully, that's something I can do. Um, Maybe full time one of these days. I would love that. Um, but my main goal is to, just kind of keep growing who I am and growing my brand and just being as authentic as possible and being somewhat relative in the golf space, relevant in the golf space. Sorry, that was the wrong word.
They both
Um,
work.
Whatever. Sometimes I get lost for my words. Being relevant in the golf space and just being a light in the golf space and just, showing it from a fresh perspective from my eyes and see where it goes from there.
Do you get people who feel inspired, or young girls or young boys that send you messages that are following your content that maybe saw you out there at Chevron or the Solheim Cup that reach out to you?
Yeah, I do. I do get quite a few messages from junior golfers, and it's one of my favorite things. I absolutely love it. It's so sweet, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something good. Um, there's actually a junior golfer here in the city that I live that reached out, and I was actually able to go play with her. And now we like communicate on a regular basis, and I'm able to be like a mentor to her, and I absolutely love it. Um, I wish I had someone like that when I was young. So I love being able to be that for somebody and many
What
others.
what's your advice to her or other junior golfers that might reach out?
Just have fun with it. Like at this level, at a junior level, it's really important to just learn how to have fun with it. Um, and like whenever I'm with this girl or whenever someone like sends me a message, a lot of times they'll talk about like their nerves and how they get nervous. So I like to give them tips on just how to navigate that on the golf course because I struggled with nerves and anxiety on the golf course really, really bad. So being able just to help them through my experiences, it's great.
What is not, again, not to just take all your secrets, but
No,
I
it's
think
good.
that we saw it with Full Swing was a great example of seeing the anxieties that even the best players in the world have off the course. You were in the heat of competition for a long time in college. How do you deal with the nerves of being a professional golfer, a solo sport? You're out there on your own, your score matters, every shot matters.
Hmm.
How do you adjust to the pressure?
Yeah, so I just learned to tell myself, you have practiced your whole life for this. Like, you are prepared. Like, just do what you have to do. Like, some things are out of your control and some things are in your control. So just worry about what's in your control and what's not in your control. That makes sense. So it's just like letting myself know, like, everything's gonna be fine. Take it shot by shot. You've practiced, you have the skill. So just do it.
Someone who you mentioned, Nelly Corda, not really folding under any pressure
Ugh,
right now as she continues to win event after event. We're talking, I guess it's April 29th. So when people listen, who knows how many events Nelly will have won in a row. But you were just out at Chevron where she won. And we've talked a lot in this podcast about how deep and connected you are in women's golf and now specifically in the professional game, covering the professional game. How have you noticed the profile of the LPGA continuing to grow? How can Nelly grow the profile? And what do you want to see from the tour going forward?
Yeah, I think women's golf has grown a lot. Um, it still has a long ways to go, but for example, what the Golf Channel is doing and having a creator out there and being able to kind of show it a little bit more, especially at these women's events, I think that helps a lot. And with Nelly being on the run that she is, there's so much coverage about that. And while there could be more, I think that in itself is just helping grow the name of women's golf more people are hearing who Nelly Korda is. So it's making people interested in her and like what golf is, and like maybe starting to watch women's golf. So I think it still has a long way to go, and women's golf, I think it does need a little bit more coverage, and I think that's why there's people like me and people like Nelly and the lovers of women's golf are here to help and will do whatever it takes to kind of grow the game.
I think people are going to look at Caitlin Clark and what she's done for women's basketball.
Right.
And I say women's basketball specifically, not just women's college basketball, because
Right.
I think what we're going to see from the WNBA is Caitlin Clark being a lightning rod for the tour. Superstars drive a lot of sports. Tiger Woods did it for men's golf. Annika did it at one point for women's golf. We're seeing
Right.
Nelly and Scotty perhaps do a lot of that right now. When you think about it, I mean, you're seeing all the algorithms and all of the analytics that go into content that's being made. How
Right.
do superstars drive golf?
I don't know. I think it's just their performance and just showing how great they are, because they're doing crazy things. And if you don't know golf, I guess you don't really, it's hard for you to appreciate it and like realize what they're doing. So I think just these superstars just doing it and then people talking about it and then it being covered, it's just showing people that perspective of like, wow, these people are actually good. Like, I'm going to watch it more. I don't know. It's crazy,
Well,
honestly.
let me ask this. What do you think people need to know about Nelly right now? What are people not, maybe the average sports fan, what are they not understanding about what Nelly's doing right now and how she's doing it?
Golf is hard. It's very hard to win a tournament, mentally and physically. It's 4 rounds of very mentally and physically taxing golf, and being able to play good in 4 rounds and finish strong and win 5 times in a row, like it seems impossible to me. Like, I've won golf tournaments before, and knowing how hard it was, like even like on that last hole, knowing that I need to make this putt to win, like just doing that, how strong you have to be mentally to do that. And she did it 5 times in a row. It's insane to me. I can't comprehend it. Like, what's your secret? What do you do?
Well, you're gonna have to make some content around that,
I
perhaps.
know, I know. It's crazy.
Carlee, before I let you go, anything else you want people to know out there? Where can they find you? What's coming up for you down the road?
Yeah, so I'm Carlee Shoe on pretty much all platforms. A lot of people will read it differently, but it's Carlee Shoe. Um, and yeah, I'm just gonna keep creating content. I really want to start getting into streaming. So I want to start
Okay.
like live streaming my rounds and my practices. I think that's another great way to build a community on a personal level. So that's something to look forward to in the future. We're currently working on the logistics of that and getting all that set up. So that's something in the future I'm super excited about. But yeah, Carlee Shoe on all platforms, and I'd love to have you there.
And that's Carlee with 2 E's.
Yep.
Carlee, thank you for taking the time. Like I said at the top, really have loved following you these last couple of months, and think, people better be on the lookout, because you're developing some awesome content
Thank
that
you.
is going to be, if it's not on people's news feeds already, it's going to be very, very soon. So Carlee Shoemaker, thanks for being on Eyes on Golf.
No, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for listening. Thanks to Carlee. As she said, it's at Carlee Shoe, CarleeShoe, as she continues to grow those profiles. TikTok and Instagram are her big ones, but she's developing a YouTube presence right now, and excited to see what she said about streaming. It's not just YouTube golf now. It's actually watching live streams of golf that we are seeing more and more of right now. So again, thank you to Carlee. Give her a follow if you so like this podcast. Remember to follow and subscribe to Eyes on Golf on social media. It's EISONGOLF, and I am Jeff Eisenband, JEFFEISENBAND. We've got a lot of great podcasts we've had the past few weeks. Gino Benelli, Joel Damon's caddy, Joe Pompliano, sports biz czar himself. Gabby Herzig talked about the dominance of Scotty Scheffler and Nelly Korda. Appreciate those jumping on here with me, and excited to continue to bring on some of the top names in golf here on Eyes on Golf.